Hey everybody, welcome back to another Bold Predictions here at Inside Nebraska. Before we get started, I encourage you guys to like this video, subscribe to the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel, get all of these videos dropped directly into your feed. So for this Nebraska Purdue Bold Predictions, with me, as always, is Steve Marek and Tim Vergeese. I'm Zack Carpenter. And boys, we got West Lafayette trip coming up. First road trip for the Huskers, 3-1, 0-1, the Big Ten versus 1-2 and 0-0 for the Boilermakers, who have been outscored by their two FBS opponents. They beat Indiana State 49-0 and kind of discount that game. And they lost 66-7 to Notre Dame and was found 38-21 against Oregon State. So we had 104-28. They're outscored right now. We got gloomy weather, 50% chance of rain, 10 to 15 mile an hour winds, which is Steve kind of perfect for a game against Purdue at Purdue.
Every single time I just growing up, I don't know what it was, but if I was watching, if I was thinking about Purdue football, I mean, at a home game at West Lafayette, Indiana, it was just like always gloomy, gray, sort of depressing looking out there, which, is just kind of my kind of football element. So, I guess we'll get that on Saturday. The hurricane down south might be bringing up some precipitation and some wind. That's actually going to hit the state of Indiana. So we'll see what the elements look like on Saturday. It's a football game that I think Nebraska has a good chance of coming out with a win in. But we'll see what it looks like on game day. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I don't think anyone was more excited than you, Steve, when Matt Rule said the thing about the Michigan State his first year, like when the spring game was all rainy and gloomy, windy, like this is what's gonna be like Michigan State in November. You're like, yeah, like inject that into my veins.
Let's go.
Uh,
That's football stuff right there.
and Tim, you weren't here last year. Last year was a gloomy, not rainy, but like just
It was really cold.
gloomy and
Yeah.
gray cold for the Purdue game um, in Nebraska, and that led to some weird special teams plays. But yeah, I don't know if the weather has an effect on how you're looking at this game. I imagine it would, but Hurricane Raiola is going to West Lafayette too, along with everything.
Yeah, I will see. I do think weather has a chance, especially with Nebraska's just like weirdness on special teams this year. I guess that's the best way to put kind of what special teams has been this year is weird. It's been good in some parts, really bad in some parts. I think it's going to have an impact there. Offense, I'm excited to see kind of what the elements, more intrigued, I guess, not excited, but intrigued to see what the elements does to Dylan Raiola and the offense and what they try to do on Saturday, just because I think Purdue knows what they're going to do. You know what Purdue you're going to get from Purdue, but with Nebraska at this point, just with everything right now, just first road game, coming off a bit of a long week. It feels weird. Last week felt weird going into Illinois. Steve kind of mentioned that kind of in the press box. It just all felt weird being a Friday game. This also has just like weird written all over it between just like the first road game, dealing with the adversity of the weather and so much else.
The squirrel, once I saw the squirrel on the field at Memorial Stadium in the middle of pregame warmups, like dodging around, I'm like, okay, all bets are off right now. Let's like this is weird. We all know that Friday night games are weird around Lincoln. And driving into the game, I did not have the feel of a game day environment that I usually do because games are always on Saturday and people are off work and they're tailgating and stuff. It was kind of the opposite on Friday night, in my opinion, at least. So I mean, once I kind of felt that, and once I was on the field pregame and saw a freaking squirrel dodging players around down there, I'm like, okay, who knows what's going to happen tonight?
It was like 2 years ago when I still lived in 2.5 years, I guess, when I still lived in Columbus, and they have a AAA team, the Columbus Clippers. And my girlfriend and I went to the game, and it was like the sixth inning, and I just do a double take 'cause there's a squirrel running around in the outfield. I'm like, look, squirrel. Like, no, I'm not doing the thing from Up. Like, there's an actual squirrel. And then
Yeah.
the stadium workers are all running around with the guy had a trash can, and he's literally like
Yeah.
he's running around like college kid, probably hungover. Like, this is not what I wanted to do today. I didn't think I'd have to be chasing a squirrel around. He throws a trash can at it because he had been running all over from the left field all the way to the other foul pole in right field, and
Mhm.
it turned into Columbus scoring like 6 runs that same half frame, and then next half inning was like 5 runs. It's like, okay, well, this just got really weird. Let's go, let's go load up some more beer before the 7th inning, before they stop selling after the 7th inning. So squirrel games lead to something. There's the rally squirrel for the St. Louis Cardinals Philadelphia Phillies playoff game, and the Cardinals won the World Series. So yeah, Steve, I forgot you're a Cubs fan, so that
Okay.
hurts. That hurts. They knocking us out on. I think that was the year they won the World Series. The Cubs knocked us out, or maybe it's the year before. But holy hell, I'm digressing. Um, really, the going back to the weather and the weirdness potential. I wanted to look this up, but I haven't had time, and it's gonna require me to like look at Farmer's Almanac and weather history and stuff. Like I wanted to see if Dylan Raiola had ever had a game where he played where there was heavy rainfall, or even something like we might see Saturday, because that's really the last thing that I'm like, okay, I haven't seen it yet, that I'm just curious to see, is him playing with a wet ball, playing a game in the rain. I think that I don't know this for sure, but I could imagine that's one reason he may have decided to play at Nebraska and to come in the Big Ten, because probably going to see more games with elements and on a Big Ten schedule than you might see elsewhere. Who knows with the expansion of SEC, ACC, whatnot. But just another, like one of those last things I really want to see that um, I haven't yet. I imagine he would play pretty well, but I need to throw in the rain and the elements in the NFL, so it's all part of this process. So as we get going here, I don't know if because of the weather, if the line's going to go down, but right now we have Nebraska -10 and a total of 47.5, down from 49.5 as it opened. Steve, open up to you. What do we got for your bold prediction?
Yeah, so my bold prediction, my mind is on the offense over here, actually. And I know the defense was a big story coming out of that loss against Illinois, and rightly so. They're kind of, it was sort of a disappointing, effort on that side of the ball. But offensively too, there's just a lot of questions with the offensive line. Micah Mazuka likely not starting. He will dress and be available, but he seems like he's maybe in the doghouse or maybe just working through some stuff. Like Matt Rule says, he's likely not going to be starting at right guard. Instead, Henry Lutovsky is going to get the start. And I've said it before here. Lutovsky is not as good of a run blocker as Micah Mazuka is. And then on the other side of the line at left tackle, Turner Corcoran likely out with a hamstring injury. That means Gunnar Gatula, redshirt freshman, is going to be getting his first career start likely. So there's a lot of things, but my mind is always on Corey Barney Jr. and the explosive plays that Marcus Satterfield is trying to unleash with this kid. And he's been close a lot of times on a lot of those, whether it's a jet motion handoff or one of those little touch passes from Dylan Raiola. So my bold prediction is going to center around Ja'Cory Barney Jr. I think he houses a touchdown of over 50 yards on one of those jet motion actions in the backfield, whether that's a handoff or a touch pass for
Hot pass.
Raiola. Yeah. So I think, Satterfield and Matt Rule absolutely love Ja'Cory Barney Jr. And why wouldn't you? I mean, he's just lightning in a bottle. He's fun to root for. He's always got a smile on his face. He takes shot after shot. He gets lit up multiple times per game, but he's always popped up with a smile on his face and pointed first down right in the defense's face. So hopefully he continues to get pop up as quickly as he has. But yeah, for my bold prediction, I think Ja'Cory Barney Jr. takes whether it's a jet motion handoff or pop pass for Raiola. I think he houses one for over 50 yards on this one. I just think there's a lot of opportunity out there against this Purdue defense that has not been good the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, he's a kid who craves contact. I mean, he took that lick against Illinois for a big catch, and he likes contact so much that he wanted to high five his own kicker in the spring game with Tristan Alvano, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Barney, he had the pop pass touchdown against Northern Iowa, and then Janiran Bonner against Illinois had the pop pass touchdown. So I think it's something that we're going to see, I think, a little more in this offense with the red zone. The red zone issues that Nebraska's had, and ability to finish some drives, especially down inside the 5-10 yard line, where you got to maybe get creative with the run game if you guys if you can't block it up down there in those short yardage situations. I mean, Northern Iowa and Illinois both had really strong units up front that caused some issues for Nebraska. But maybe you see those, try to get him on the perimeter, take advantage of that Miami, that Florida speed of a guy like Ja'Cory Barney. But is he your favorite player to watch on offense?
On offense, let's think about this.
Non-quarterback.
Yeah, non-quarterback answer for offense. I mean, the two big-bodied receivers are cool. Thomas Fidone is cool. I mean, yeah, I mean, Ja'Cory Barney Jr., none of them have really the explosiveness that Ja'Cory has, I think. And obviously Jalen Lloyd is kind of playing behind Ja'Cory Barney a lot now. And that says something after what Jalen Lloyd showed last year too. So, I mean, Ja'Cory Barney is just the epitome of college football fun. Just always a smile on his face. He is lightning in a bottle. He's got so much juice, just ready to go and rack up explosive plays. So yeah, I mean, Ja'Cory Barney Jr. is 100% probably my favorite player on offense right now.
100% probably. Tim Verghese is still here. Tim's still here. Who's your favorite player? I'm putting you guys both on the spot out of nowhere.
This year specifically, I think it's been Ramir, just because of the quickness we've seen from him, and I just love I like watching Dante Dowdle run, but I do like a back with vision, and I like a back that can make guys miss, in tight spaces. And I like the way Ramir runs the football. I think his story is really cool, just his commitment through multiple staffs, through years where it's like, why isn't Ramir Johnson on the field? He's clearly a good back. And now it's like, okay, well, now they're using him in a role. His just dedication and all of that. I think he's a really cool story, and it's cool to see kind of the fruits of his labor and the efforts he's put in, kind of paying off this final year with the program. But he's my guy.
I feel like Ramir's the guy where like you can always bank on he's going to get on the field. He's going to be out of the four in the backfield. You can bank on the opportunities just because he's their third down back. They're going to be passing the ball, like no matter maybe you have a game plan tailored to more of a downhill running game or between the tackles with Dowdell or Emmett Johnson, Gabe Irvin, what have you. But I think Ramir's the mainstay. He's going to be the guy most likely on those 2-minute drills. I think Dowdell was was it Dowdell or Ramir Johnson the last against Illinois as the back in the backfield? Either way, I still think Ramir's he's been fun to watch. You hope that he can continue that momentum. Maybe he continues against Purdue going forward. So Tim, set you up here for your bold prediction. Are you going Ramir or are you going elsewhere?
I'm going elsewhere. I'm going with the defense. I think, we've kind of talked all week about this kind of being a bounce back opportunity for Nebraska. I think specifically the defense gained some confidence in themselves, kind of comes out with, that edge that Tony White said they lacked last week. I think they come out just between the performances the last 2 weeks. I'm sure the coaches have gotten on them just about the effort and the just everything these past 2 weeks. I think they come out with a bit of an edge, and I think, just my own prediction on just how I think the game goes. I think you're going to force Purdue into some obvious passing situations, and I think you're going to see Tony White dial up those exotic blitzes we saw last year and really pin their ears back, get off the quarterback, and play as unpredictably as they did a bit last year, just in terms of dialing things up and sending pressure from all over the place. I think they get after the quarterback, and I think they finish with 3 sacks across the board on Saturday.
Do you guys get a little fired up when you hear the term exotic blitzes from a coach like a Tony White? He says that phrase.
I get even more fired up when I see it on the field.
Yeah. That is a football coach answer.
Yeah, no, they're fun. Like, when a DC is dialing it up and like, sending pressure from like different spots that like traditionally you don't usually see like on an every down basis. I mean, it's kind of fun to watch just to see, why they're going into the gaps that they're going into. I always have fun kind of watching the exotic stuff like that.
In general, for me, it's like there's nothing more fun than seeing a coach or a player just like completely in their bag. And there were times last year where you're just watching Tony White just dial it up play after play and just like, oh, he's just in a zone right now. We said the same thing with like Dylan last week in that first half specifically against Illinois. It was like, oh, he's in a zone right now. Like you can tell when a guy's in there. And we just saw that from Tony a bunch last year. We just haven't seen it this year just yet, but I think he gets back to that on Saturday. I think he's
And
got an opportunity.
I thought we saw both OCs last week in the Nebraska Illinois game. Marcus Satterfield, I thought, was calling a great game. And of course Barry Lundy Jr. on the other side for the Illini. I thought, talking about being in your bag. I mean, Nebraska's defense was like playing with bad eyes. They were looking one way and the ball was going the other way. It was really a great job by Barry Lundy Jr., I think.
Yeah, he put on a clinic last week, and I thought Satterfield, for as
Yeah.
much criticism as he's gotten, some justified, a lot of it not. For last year, the personnel they were playing with, I thought he called a great game, and people criticized the 3rd and 3 call on the throw to Lindenmeyer. It's like, what are you talking about? Why? How are you criticizing the play call when he was wide open in the end zone for a touchdown with
So open.
three
He was
three
so
minutes to
open.
go? Yeah, I understand. He's your out of the tight ends. He's your number 3 in terms of pass catching ability and speed, all those things. But they had it. They had to run personnel in a fullback in the game that was covered up. Dylan Raiola hits the third or fourth read. I think it was the fourth read on the play, and just mistimed it. Missed that. That's all it was. I think was a mistiming on the throw when he has pressure coming down on him. He missed it by like what, a yard, and that's about it. Like the play was dialed up. The play was there. Just we just got to tighten up the screws a little bit, and I have confidence that that's going to happen going forward. But for my prediction, I'm not going with the pass game, even though I think this could be a game where, I mean, Purdue, the way they want to run their corner, or the way they want their corners to play with more tight man with head coach Ryan Walters. The scheme he ran at Illinois, like I don't know if you have the personnel like that's totally developed right now for the scheme they want to run with the way they want to defend the pass. So I'm wondering if they play more off coverage this week, knowing the quarterback coming into the building and the set of pass catchers coming in the building. But if they stick to what they have been doing, I think they're definitely vulnerable there, but they're also extremely vulnerable in the run game. I know that some of these numbers are skewed by the quarterback run game with Riley Leonard, Notre Dame, and then the Oregon State quarterback, who I could look up his name to confirm it, but not gonna do that right now. So they've given up. I think Riley Leonard had 3 rushing touchdowns and over 100 yards rushing in that game. But the Purdue run defense so far, and Tim and I were talking about this a little bit on the rapid recap yesterday. It's allowing 269 rushing yards per game in 3 games, which is the 3rd worst in FBS. The only worst teams are Kent State and Florida Atlantic, but that's factoring 104 yards allowed against Indiana State, FCS opponent. Against Notre Dame and Oregon State, their 2 FBS opponents are allowing 351.5 rushing yards per game, which is just an astronomical number. It's like reminds you of the Nebraska run defense for those first 4 games of 2022. We're not doing that again, Steve. We're not talking about 2022 again like we did the last podcast. But let me look at the numbers again. 5.6 rushing yards per attempt allowed, 13th worst in FBS, worse than the Big Ten. And then if you again look at the 2 FBS opponents, they're allowing 6.96, so 7 rushing yards per attempt. 101 carries for 703 yards in the last 2 games allowed by Purdue, which is just screams to me that this is going to be a game plan where Nebraska is going to try to get right in the run game. And this screams to me a Dante Dowdell and Gabe Ervin Dante Dowdell game. But my bold prediction, going a little more specific, Tim, you had the Dante Dowdell bold prediction last week. I'm going Dowdell, 125 rushing yards and a touchdown. And even more bold, Dante Dowdell and Gabe Ervin Jr. to each score a rushing touchdown in the second half. Nebraska has only 3 second half touchdowns all year, and they haven't scored more than 1 in a game so far. None against Colorado, 1 against UTEP on the first drive, I believe, of the 3rd quarter. Northern Iowa, they had the 2 drives that ended in field goals where they got inside or near the 10-yard line. And then in the 4th quarter, like 4.5 minutes left, Emmett Johnson had a long rushing touchdown. And then against Illinois, you had the one the pop pass touchdown to Janier Bonner, which is essentially a running play. But anyway, they haven't scored more than two or more than one second half touchdown all year. That's going to end this week, where I think we see that running game feature a lot more heavily, and I think it could be a game where they finally wear down the opponent, similar to what Illinois did, where they just kept going and going and going, and eventually over time they did what Brett Bielema was hoping for, strategizing. Is you do it, you just keep running at them over and over, and you eventually wear them down by the time the fourth quarter hits. I think that's what happens on Saturday against Purdue. Steve, any thoughts on that, or you just jump into your final score prediction?
No, I think that's this is absolutely a game where I think Nebraska, I think I and everybody in the program and outside of the program would like to see Nebraska kind of control the line of scrimmage, which is something they didn't do against Illinois, and get that traditional handoff run game going to help out Dylan Raiola, because who knows what the weather is going to be like. I'm sure the throws that Dylan has going through raindrops would look perfectly beautiful, just like they have when there's no raindrops going through them. So I'm sure he'll throw the ball just fine in whatever
Big slow-mo game for the HD cameras on Peacock.
Yeah. If that happens, it'll be cool. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what that offensive line looks like. The Micah Mizuka less, offensive line, Turner Corcoran likely out, Gunnar Gatula. But I think you're spot on, Zach. I think this is a game where the run game can get going, despite Micah Mizuka likely not playing a lot, and then Gunnar Gatula out there at left tackle. But yeah, so I can just jump into my final score. I think Nebraska gets out of West Lafayette with a 34-14 win.
Yeah, I've got a similar 38-20 is kind of what I'll put it at right now. I think some late touchdowns on both, or late touchdown on Nebraska's side, in line with what Zach's saying, to kind of to pull away. But I do think that first and second quarter could be closer than people would like it to be.
With my bold predictions and my final score predictions, I mean, first off, the fact that Steve, Mark, and Tim Verghese are backing me up, I'm like, all right, write that down real quick. That ups the confidence meter in my pick. I've been getting so close to either the final score, or I get Nebraska's final score or their opponent's final score. I keep whatever bold prediction I make, either on the site in our written prediction or the ones we do on the video here. It's like the next week it happens. It's like the next week, the one I said on the one I wrote on the site happens, or the one I said on the video happens like 2 weeks later. I don't know. I'm getting really close. I think the Tommy Hill pick six, I had that against UTEP, and then boom, he does it against Colorado. Yeah. I think there are a couple other ones. I'm not gonna go through the pain of reliving every single one, but like last week I had 24-19, then 24-16, then 24-13 against Illinois, and that Nebraska scores 24 points. Like, I'm that close to being good at this. That close to being good at your job. I got 31-17 Nebraska. I think could be closer at halftime than Nebraska fans are going to want, but then you see the Huskers pull away, maybe allow a garbage time or late fourth quarter touchdown. So again, right now the line is Nebraska -10 and over under 47.5. So I'm right around that line of Nebraska covers by 4 and over hits by half point. Yep, 48 total. So that's what I see. That's what I see playing out. But you guys take it away. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
My final thought, just get right game for Nebraska. They're popped in the mouth by Illinois. How do they recover? How do they rebound? I think, it'd be beneficial for everybody involved if Nebraska would throw the first punch and get off to a fast start, take the ball, go down the field right away, score, put some sort of points on the board. I think that'll go a long way in this one, and just, show up in the second half. If you have a lead, keep it, obviously. So I'm sure Matt Rule is going to be preaching that 4-quarter game. Doesn't matter if you're up by a lot, down by a lot, just play 4 full quarters of football. And I think the head coach is going to be happy. And I think a lot of people out here are going to be happy, because if that happens, Nebraska's a better team. They're going to get out of there with a win.
Yeah, I think completely agree. Again, like we talked going into the Illinois game, just wanted to see Nebraska play 4 full quarters
Mhm.
of football. We saw that collapse towards the end of the fourth quarter, going into overtime, and obviously overtime just completely flat. Want to see them again, just finish out 4 quarters of a game, finish out a game, and see what happens.
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys if you thought Nebraska would be ranked if they come out and absolutely dominate a couple teams at the back half, like Kansas State going into Oklahoma State, Texas A&M, Arkansas, Boise State, Washington State. Those are the 23, 24, and 25th ranked teams in the country. But then you look down and Nebraska was essentially the 31st team in the country. And what is it, 20, 29, 30, yeah, 31st. So not going to happen. Not going to happen if they win this game, even if they thoroughly dominate. They're going to have to win their next two.
Yeah, and
Game again.
I don't think the team needs to be focused on like getting ranked at this point. It's just about getting back
I
to
can be though. I
6 wins.
love seeing a number next to Nebraska's name. It makes it so much more fun for SEO headlines and everything. Like, yeah, number 22 ranked Nebraska, and that it would have been so much nicer to see number 19 Nebraska 4-0 going into West Lafayette.
It
You're right
was
though,
it was
Tim.
it was kind of a different feeling when you're writing the content all week and you were putting number 22 before Nebraska's name all the time. That was a kind of a different feeling for sure because it doesn't really hasn't really happened a lot since I've been on the beat.
Well, last year with when they go into Michigan State, what 5-3 after winning they start 0-2 and then win 5 of their next 6, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh wow, they are in line to win the Big Ten West and go to the Big Ten championship game if they win this game. And so I prep all the YouTube and our site headlines, SEOs, like make sure I can get the character limit to include Big Ten championship game, like something along
Yeah.
those lines. And then I told Greg Smith about it, and then I just completely jinxed the team. And they lost their last 3. So no,
Went in
no,
November.
no more of that. No more of that until we are actually faced with it. No pre-written headlines or SEO or anything like that. Tim, do you have any final thoughts? I can't even remember if I set you up for any final thought yet.
No, you're good. That's all I had.
All right, good. So I know you guys gotta get out of here. I want to get out of here. Fans want us to get out of here. So that's gonna do it for us. Again, encourage you guys to like this video, subscribe to the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel, get all of these videos dropped directly into your feed. Steve and I will be traveling out to gray and gloomy, rainy West Lafayette for that 11 a.m. Central, 12 p.m. Eastern opening kick. Game is available on Peacock only. It's the Nebraska's minimum of one Peacock exclusive game that every Big Ten team has to play. Jack Collinsworth and Michael Robinson on the call. Steve, Jack Collinsworth.
Yeah, yeah. Chris Collinsworth's son, who is also a sports broadcaster.
He's
And I think I think during when he played in his college days, he was also a receiver, just like his dad. So that's my Jack Collinsworth knowledge. I don't, yeah, have
I
much
was
of an opinion on him
I
outside of
love
that.
testing you guys just out of nowhere. Like, hey, here's one thing. Talk. That was
Yeah,
good.
no,
So,
yeah, I don't have an opinion on Jack Collinsworth.
he's
So
actually pretty good. Like, I think he's pretty good. I mean, he's the host of the Sunday night football or
yeah,
football night in America, like the on-field host. He's pretty good. So we'll see. We'll see on the rewatch of the broadcast.
well,
I actually
his
usually play the broadcast in my ear, like
yeah,
on a headphone, just in case hear the expert analysis of the color guy who
yeah.
a lot of times a former quarterback. Anyway,
Yeah, I don't. I'm maybe in the minority in this because just based off my experiences, just looking on Twitter when Chris Collinsworth is calling a game. I love Chris Collinsworth as an
mm-hmm.
announcer. I feel like I learned so much about the game of football when I listen to him on the broadcast. But then I go on Twitter and it's like everybody's just like, saying bad things about Chris Collinsworth's call. So I'm like, I don't know what everybody's talking about, but I sure like him.
It's one of those things. It's like the Joe Buck discourse where like
I
when you
like Joe Buck. I
yeah,
always like Joe Buck.
me too. It's like it's like an opinion forms, and then it's just that's sort of the consensus opinion created on Twitter, and which is not a real place, social media,
Yep.
where it continues. Chris Collinsworth is great. He has some weird analogies sometimes, like you couldn't block Micah Parsons if you had a machete or something. I don't know. It's like, yeah, okay, deal
Enjoy
with
it.
that. He also
Tim,
really
what
knows
say
the
you?
game.
Give us a Chris Collinsworth take. Tim.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had my mic muted. Yeah, Chris Collinsworth. I like Chris. I will say on Joe Buck, I just saw it again on Twitter, the not real place. But someone like just noting how much he's evolved. Like the call he had for Jaden Daniels touchdown
I watched that
against
too. Yeah.
the Bengals. He was electric. He's
That
been
was
electric
awesome.
this last.
Yeah.
He's had a good like decade, but like again, they brought up the old the David Tyree helmet catch and how bad that call is. It's just like, oh, and it's caught. Like but no, completely different guy. And even Chris, I've come to respect Chris a lot just over the last decade or so, from being like a little kid in my living room being like, oh, this guy on Sunday Night Football again, to like, oh, Chris Collinsworth, nice.
Mhm.
I don't think anyone has flipped the narrative, the public perception, the consensus public opinion on themselves more than Joe Buck over the last 5, 6, 7, however long it's been, years. I think it's really ever since he came out with his autobiography, and he was just very honest and self-deprecating and funny. I listened to the audiobook when it came out, and he was funny on that. He narrated his own, and then he was doing the national media, national book tour of doing all these interviews. It's like, oh, this is what this guy's like. And then he stopped being so serious, I think would be the best phrase. And he just sounds so much more authentic. And that you're right. You're right, man. That call on the Jaden Daniels touchdown was electric. So love seeing that. Hopefully Jack Collinsworth's got some more like that in store for us on Saturday again, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Central in West Lafayette. Game available on Peacock. So for Steve Mark and Tim Vergeese, I'm Zach Carpenter. We'll catch you guys again next time.